Stuart, you're playing in the Gold Cup. What was Bob Bradley's message to you and the team following the tough ending to the tournament?
Just that it was a disappointing, last game and a bad half of soccer that, he was obviously not happy with, and I don't think any of us were happy with. It was a quiet locker room. Everybody was really upset the way it ended, and kind of our pride was hurt a little bit, in that we'd let down not only ourselves but everybody that was watching. And so that game was put behind us, and I think a lot of people can take a lot of positives from that tournament, and hopefully be included in future tournaments going forward.
One of the things that we appreciate about your play is your first touch. How did you come to have such a good first touch, and how do you work on it?
Actually, it's kind of if you ask my parents, it was a thing that was, I had a soccer ball glued to my feet from the second I was born, and I always used to dribble around the house with a soccer ball. It was, it was the sport I loved playing, and something I enjoyed doing on a daily basis. So, to kind of just learn to have the ball glued to your feet, and your first touch, and all the rest of it was something that I really worked on growing up.
You just turned 24, but earlier in your career you had some really tough injuries. How did you get yourself through the time, and tell us about the moment that you knew that you'd make it back?
Yeah, there was a number of times in my career when I kind of wasn't sure, whether I was going to make it back from those injuries. And I remember sitting after my ankle surgery, kind of down in the dumps, and was not sure what I was going to do with my future, whether I was going to have to go back to college, whether I was going to have to get a job, and kind of the dream that I've always had since I was a kid of playing pro soccer and making it and being a famous pro athlete. All those kind of things kept me going, and I always had this self-belief in my own abilities, and that nothing was going to hold me back.
You got to play in the MLS All-Star game. And one interesting note is you played against Everton there. A lot of people don't realize that you had a tryout with Everton in 2005. At this point, what are your plans of thinking about heading back overseas?
Yeah, I went to Europe straight out of college, and I gave it a go, but I think I was a little too young and inexperienced, and it's a goal of mine to head back to Europe at some point, whether it's now or whether it's 4 years from now after another contract with the Dynamo. That's kind of the things I'm going through right now, and a decision I'm going to have to make at the end of this year. But it's a decision that obviously I'll weigh all options and make the decision that's best for my career.
You grew up admiring David Beckham, at least what we hear, and you're a bit of a Man United fan. So if you had a choice of going through training with one of these players, which would it be? David Beckham, George Best, Eric Cantona, or Ryan Giggs?
Eric Cantona, hands down. He was the most fun player to watch, and kind of carried this swagger about him, and the stories I hear about him, he was just an unbelievable player, and he was a bit of a prankster on and off the field, so it reminds me a little bit of myself in that aspect. But he was a player that's a legend, and was a legend at Man United, and if I could have a training session with him, it would be pretty fun.
One of the things that you do, you're very active with, and a lot of people are really like to follow you, is on Twitter. And you and Brian Ching seem to have a little bit of a contest and like to poke fun at each other through Twitter and everything. Currently, you have more followers than the Big Aloha. Tell us about the Twitter and how you like to communicate with fans.
Yeah, Twitter's a great avenue to communicate with fans and friends, and it's kind of a cool way of keeping people updated on what's going on. And obviously, we have Twitter wars, Brian and myself, and we use the same computer on the road. So if somebody leaves theirs logged in, then it's a recipe for disaster. I actually got him a good one last night. But it's good fun, and I started my account a little bit before him, so I'm a little ahead of him on followers at the moment. But I'm going to make a good push to make sure that he doesn't catch me.
Last question is, off the field, you're involved with a lot of charity work, and Athletes for Hope. You've been named U.S. Soccer Humanitarian of the Year 2008 for the Houston Dynamo. You've got Nick's team, you've got Holden's Heroes. Discuss your involvement in that. Why do you enjoy getting involved with groups like that?
Yeah, it was something that kind of I have a personal connection with. My dad battled cancer for 6 years, so to go in with him on a daily basis and see the things that he went through, and then to know that kids go through the same thing was kind of an eye-opener for me. And I went down there and made some good friends down in Texas Children's, and became involved with a couple charities, and it's something I really enjoy doing. Being able to put a smile on kids' faces and being able to make these cool friends that that then they can watch you play, and then they can relate to you when you go back in and speak with them, and just to give somebody a little bit of hope and a little bit of excitement in their day that maybe gives them that extra push that helps them beat an illness that's can be deadly sometimes.